So after the Champions League semi-final draw was announced, I was driving around, as one does a lot here in California, picked up a camera, stuck it in my face and said, "F it, let's do another preview." And so here we are after 9 months and 78 teams who started the qualifying rounds back in July, and we are now down to our last 4 clubs, and we're going to start with Liverpool versus Roma, or as I like to call it, the Mohamed Salah Derby. Since in case you're new to the sport or this channel or the news, Salah played for Roma as recently as last season before blowing up for Liverpool after he was purchased by the Reds over the summer in what was arguably the best signing of the season by any club and in any country. However, the hard part for me is which of these two clubs comes into this two-legged affair with more momentum. Now, Liverpool outplayed, outsmarted, outcoached, and obviously outscored the newly crowned Premier League champions Manchester City 5-1 over 2 legs in the quarterfinals, which, I'll be honest, was as shocking as it was incredibly impressive. And Roma came back from a 4-1 deficit in leg 1 against the almost unbeatable Barcelona this season to pull off the shock upset in leg 2 and give Barcelona some of the same miracle comeback medicine that they gave PSG the season before. And Roma did it by keeping Messi off the score sheet, which I guess isn't too surprising since Messi has scored 0 goals in the quarterfinals or later in the Champions League since the 2015 semifinals versus Bayern Munich, where he had a brace, which I actually think will taint his legacy a bit, especially when his nemesis, Cristiano Ronaldo, has scored 16 goals in the quarterfinals or later since Messi last hit the back of the net against Bayern, but that's going to have to be a conversation for another time. So here are the 2 things that Liverpool need to do to advance to their first Champions League final in 10 years. 1, keep their foot on the gas, because for me, they have the best attacking trio in the world in Mo Salah, Sadio Mane, and Roberto Firmino, who I believe have actually gotten better since losing their best playmaker, Philippe Coutinho, to Barcelona in January. So overall as a team, they need to keep winning balls as high up the field as possible, and then once they get the ball, they need to go straight at their opponent because their relentlessness to keep going forward with purpose wears teams down. And believe me, I've been on the receiving end of this a few times when I was with the US. We were playing against the likes of Argentina and Germany, and you're just praying as a center back, like I used to be, that these 2 teams, or the ones that I mentioned, slow it down a little and just keep some possession in the middle of midfield so you can catch your breath and somewhat get organized like you still have control over the game. But these top teams, they never allow you to do that, especially when they're as confident as Liverpool are at the moment. They just keep trying to break you down, and it sucks, and it's really impressive at the same time, but it sucks more, and that's what Liverpool needs to do. And 2, shut down Edin Dzeko. Now sure, Roma has plenty of very talented players like the captain of my all-hair team, Steven El Shaarawy, but the Bosnian international is the guy for the Italian club whose timely goals this season, especially in the Champions League, where many of them were created solely by him being more switched on and alert than opposing defenders, could be playing at the height of his ability at the moment. So Virgil van Dijk, who has brought so much calmness and leadership to Liverpool's back line since joining in January from Southampton, and in fact, it's hard to remember the last time that the Reds gave up some crap goals, or at least consistently gave up crap goals that they were becoming known for. Well, he and Dejan Lovren and their 2 young outside backs will have to be up for the challenge and on high alert at all times to negate Dzeko's influence, which obviously would go a long way towards them winning this matchup. And then as for Roma, here are their 2 things. 1, don't be satisfied with just getting to the semifinals, because like Barcelona last season, who lost to Juventus in the following round after their impossible comeback over PSG in the round of 16, you've created a lifetime memory for all of your supporters, so they will most likely forgive you if you lose to Liverpool, but don't let that happen. Keep driving this positivity and momentum forward and hold off the emotional letdown for as long as possible. But in my opinion, for that to happen, it's going to rest on the shoulders of one player and one player only, which leads me to number 2, and your goalkeeper Alisson, who needs to stand on his head for you to have a legitimate chance in this 2-legged matchup. I'm talking the best 180 minutes of his career, which, oddly enough, I fully expect him to do because he's emerging as one of the best goalkeepers in the world, which means you're probably going to lose him this summer, Roma. And I'm sorry about that. But we can talk about that later. So staying focused on the now, we all know that Liverpool is going to get scoring chances, and the stats back that up, since they are the highest scoring club in this competition this season, which means it's really Alisson's semifinal to win or lose. So no pressure, big guy. Okay, so after listening to the words coming out of my mouth for both of these clubs, I don't know what to predict. but I just don't see Roma being able to replicate the shock and awe on Liverpool and their experienced manager Jurgen Klopp, who has proven to be a very astute manager in these types of competitions. So I think the Reds are going to get past Roma, but barely, 3-2 over 2 legs. And next up, it's Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid, which pits the manager Jupp Heynckes, who won the Champions League the last time he was managing in it back in 2013 when he led Bayern to the treble, much like he's doing now, versus Zinedine Zidane, who also won the Champions League the last time he was managing in it, just last season and the season before that. So this is going to be a great contest between two very successful managers and clubs. Also, fun fact for you, Jupp Heynckes won the Champions League with Real Madrid in 1998 when he was their manager back in the day. And I bet you didn't know that. However, and much like the other semifinal, I'm not sure who has the advantage coming into this one. Bayern have already clinched the Bundesliga for a 6th straight year and will most likely earn another spot in the DFB Pokal final, while Madrid gave up on winning La Liga about 4 or 5 months ago, and then they put the cherry on top of that nonchalance by crashing out of the Copa del Rey as well. So it's pretty clear that both of these clubs will be squarely focused on this matchup because it is easily the most important thing that they have on their plates at the moment, which means we got to get to 2 things, and we're going to start with Super Bayern first. 1, let James Rodriguez get his revenge because you know he wants it, especially since it was pretty clear that Zidane didn't consider him a regular in Madrid's starting 11 during James' time there. But with James' renaissance under Heynckes, it has given a player that we all know is special, believing that he is special too. And if James is in that type of form over these 2 legs, both mentally and physically, then we all know that he can win games all by himself. And 2, you might want to mark this Cristiano Ronaldo fella. Not only because he scored 5 against Bayern in Madrid's 6-3 win over 2 legs in last season's Champions League quarterfinals, though that would be enough reason to want to mark him. But because the guy can't stop scoring in general, he has notched 21 goals in his last 11 games in all competitions, which is the definition of being on fire. So the question is, who's going to be up for the responsibility? Because Ronaldo feasted on balls to the back post when he was matched up with smaller outside backs against Juventus. I mean, do you guys remember his magical bicycle kick goal against De Siglio? Maybe if De Siglio was taller, that wouldn't have happened. Or the header over Alex Sandro, which led to the penalty that ultimately led to Madrid getting past Juve in the last round. If Sandro was taller, maybe it wouldn't have happened. So this whole matchup could be decided on whether Joshua Kimmich and David Alaba, or Rafinha, or Juan Bernat, who are all not very tall, are up for the challenge. And as for Madrid, well, here are their 2 things. 1, lean on their experience, because not only are they on the hunt for an unprecedented 3rd straight Champions League trophy, this is their 8th straight semifinal, which feels like a record, even if it's not. But fun fact for you, each time they've won the semifinal during these 8 straight years, they've gone on to win the whole thing. So it'll be a very good thing if they can get past Bayern, but to do that, they're gonna have to do, well, not these 2 things, just this 1 thing, because they're really, really good at everything else. And that is 2, tighten things up defensively, which includes having Keylor Navas's back despite his subpar performance in goal in leg 2 against Juventus, which most definitely gave all of you people out there that don't rate him another reason as to why Madrid should go after David De Gea in the summer instead. So I'm sure full confidence for Navas from his teammates and manager would go a long way to him playing well. And tightening up defensively also means making sure that Robert Lewandowski isn't isolated on the back post with Dani Carvajal, because as we saw with Juve's Mario Mandzukic, Carvajal isn't tall enough to match up with most of these guys on crosses. And tightening up defensively means making sure that your captain and vocal leader Sergio Ramos stays card-free, which is probably like asking a fish not to get wet when they're swimming. But when he's not on the field, it makes a noticeable difference in Madrid's back line, so he needs to stay on the field. So again, after going back and forth in my head, because I feel like these teams are pretty evenly matched, and yes, because I know Madridistas hate it when I predict that their team is going to win, because they usually win if I predict them to lose, I'm going with Madrid to take this in penalties after they're all square 3-3 after 180 minutes of regulation and 30 minutes of extra time. So there you have it. I have Liverpool and Madrid going to the final, but do you agree or disagree with me? You better agree. So let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you tomorrow. Later.